fellow Kevolutionaries. Welcome to a later than usual show. It's 9 p.m. here in the UK, which means it's 4 p.m. on the east coast of Americana land, which means, of course, it's 9 a.m. in the great nation of Fiji. Go Fiji. My crap mic again, is it? Okay. We'll try and sort that out, everybody. Apologies, I don't know why my microphone seems to be playing silly buggers with me today. Oh, this is so annoying. Why am I putting on a weird accent for? That's strange. Anyway. Hello. Is that any better? Hello. Hello. No, it's not any better, is it? Fuck. Hang on. There we go. Is that better? Yes? Okay. Good. Thank you. Apologies. Because I can't hear what I sound like. All I can hear is the volume on the mic bit, on the mixer disc, on the OBS. Anyway, it's lovely to be with you all. Now that you can hear me. I'm not going through that intro again. Fuck that noise. Anyway. Yes. Hello there, everyone. Apologies for being a couple of hours later than I would usually be. Real life got in the way. And it's not as if, like I've said, I will always go ahead at 7 p.m. Sometimes it'll be later. Occasionally, if I have a guest on where the time zones need to be worked out, I will be on earlier. But tonight I'm on a little bit late, a couple of hours later. Hopefully that isn't too much of an issue for everybody. It'll actually be slightly better for the people in America who make up like half the audience anyway, so, you know, hello there. But to anyone later, say, who would be annoyed by this? A couple of hours later. Maybe someone in India. Apologies to any Indian followers I have. Or my Cambodian friend from the other day. Yes, anyway. Enough of that nonsense. The image you see on the screen there is the Eye of Saros that I found on one of these appalling right-wing shithole sites. These digital shit pits of iniquity and moral decay. With the Eye of Sauron from Lord of the Rings, and with George Soros' face, it becomes the Eye of Saros, and that's an amazing image. I love it deeply, because he's also got two eyes of Sauron for his actual eyes. So it's amazing. I love it deeply. God damn. Anyway. Rory, why am I not a guest on your goddamn show? God knows why I'm in the house. You're not really Rorycat. Rorycat is right there behind me. He's not typing. He doesn't even own a phone. He's a fucking cat. He doesn't have thumbs or anything. And no, the weird knobbly bit halfway up the cat's arm doesn't count. He can't type. That's why he needs me. That's the only reason he puts up with me being around. It's because I've got thumbs and I can open doors and tins of things. Anyway. We would have accepted saying you took a nap. Well, I did take a nap because I always take I need like half an hour before the show. But genuinely, it got in the way. I didn't get back home till like 6:30, and you need to set up the thing an hour before for it to go out on Restream. So yeah, whatever. Look, I had shit to do. It's Christmas. Leave me alone. Anywho, yes. I'm drinking water there, by the way, in case anyone was wondering. Just because I fancied it, really. Because that's the thing, you do need to have a drink. Even if you don't necessarily you don't feel particularly thirsty at the start of a thing, you do need to drink. Although, because your voice you start doing that slapping thing, which is like anti-ASMR. Yeah, which is not good. By the way, ASMR, it's the thing that is most odd to me about modern culture, actually. The enormous popularity of those ASMR channels. There are people who make livings doing that, and I don't quite understand how. I don't know why that's the thing. Look, don't get me wrong, I've got no problem with it. There's clearly an art to it that I'm not quite understanding. But for me, it's just weird. It's so strange. I don't understand what people really get out of it. I can understand anything having nothing surprising in terms of having a niche audience, because you see that in like sexual kinks and stuff. And I think for some people ASMR is sort of a sexual kink. but that's the more extreme end of it, of course. So I can understand that there's everything that you can think of has some sort of niche audience. But what I don't get is the ASMR being so popular. There are ASMR channels with millions of subscribers, and I don't understand why that is. I put out one ASMR video. It was a joke. It was only like a shitpost thing. It was I belched really loudly in the middle of a recording for, I think it was like a Descent of Manosphere video, and I belched really loudly. And I put that out with, and the title of it was something like "The Only ASMR Video I Will Ever Do." So yeah, ASMR can be a sexual thing, but I think some people just listen to it to relax, don't they? I thought that was a thing. Anyway, whatevs. Anyway, hello to all of you, you beautiful people. The usual shilling stands. Okay, so go and check out the Clips channel. It's linked below. I put out the video of the weird story from the nutter on Facebook about China invading America, which totally happened. Honest, guys. You can go check that out if you want to. I came across a Dalek ASMR video. Jesus Christ. Okay. Maybe that's what I can claim when my audio goes choppy. I'm doing Dalek ASMR. Anyway, yeah, sorry. So go and check out the Clips channel. It's linked below. If you haven't already, go and subscribe, like the videos, all of that jazz. If you want to give me your money, streamlabs.com/KFLogan1875. You can get me to read silly things or not silly things. If you have a serious comment, that's fine. Link to that is below, and yeah, you can get your. I mean, technically they're not super chats because I've been demonetized by YouTube ages ago. I got demonetized during was it the second Adpocalypse, the Stephen Crowder one? And Stephen Crowder got remonetized for doing nothing, and I haven't been. I think that rather says it all, doesn't it? Anyway, so you can do that below if you want to. And I've turned the noise down for that as well. So if it goes off, like, we don't all get annoyed, but we don't think we've got like some sort of weird gritty tinnitus situation going on. Anyway, so yes, welcome one and all. We've got two main stories for tonight, but I want to start off with something that someone showed me earlier today, only a couple of hours before getting going. I hadn't planned on talking about this because I didn't know it was a thing. Anyway, Trump doing pointless things. He knows he's lost, right? He knows he's going nowhere, right? Nowhere powerful. He's leaving the Oval Office. He's going to be replaced by Biden. And on his way out, he seems he's just going to do weird shit. Like, he's not even going to do particularly destructive shit. It sounds like you're about 5 miles away from a big box. Sort out your main mic, Kev. Is it really that bad? Because we had audio problems earlier and it was fine. So is my audio gone shit again? Or not? I don't know. Can someone tell me? Is it okay? It's better. Is it just because when I move away like that, does it sound more distant now than when I'm there? I'll wait a second. Yes. Okay, so I just need to be closer to the microphone. Okay. Well, I'll put it there. I'll bring the microphone right up to my face. It never used to have to do this. It used to pick up when it was fucking several feet away from my face. Anyway, so it's proximity to the mic. Okay, fine. Does that show up on camera? It doesn't even show up on camera. It's right there. Look, it's literally, I'm touching the thing there and it's not even on camera. Amazing. Anyway. Yes, so. Quit moving away from... Sorry, but I fidget. It's one of the things I do, apparently. Yeah. It's what I move like... Because I'm on a wheelchair. Not a wheelchair, like a disabled person. Like an office chair on wheels. I can move away like that. And then I can come straight back in. So... Anyway. Yes. There we go. Yeah, and I can make my face big like that. Anyway. So yes, this story is my beard is amazing, you're quite correct. This story is so dumb. Trump knows that he's not going in. He's not getting, his victory, his overturning of democracy and all that shit. Even though there's been continued talk of him trying to get martial law, it's not happening. Clearly the Sorosian deep state, praise be upon them, aren't giving in to his nonsense, and that's cool. So he's putting out weird shit. We always know during either a president's lame duck period or during their second term, which Trump isn't getting. Lol. He, a president, and it's always been he so far, but if a woman gets in charge, I don't see why it would be any different. They do odd things they wouldn't necessarily otherwise have done. But in Trump's case, he's just doing odd things because that's all he's done. He's a very silly boy. Is all I can say. Okay. He signed this executive order. Now, the reason that it's so stupid is manyfold. But initially, just because it's, like I say, he's in his lame duck period. So this is going to get instantly overturned. Like, as soon as Biden gets in, this is going to be one of the 1,000,001 executive orders he's going to sign reversing this nonsense. But this is just weird kind of fash clickbait, if you will. Like, it's literally just... it's just him signalling to his fascist authoritarian dipshits who've got like this hard-on for Western civilization, even though they clearly don't understand the first fucking thing about Western civilization, as we will explore as we go through the thing. Trump has issued an executive order requiring beautiful, quote-unquote, federal architecture. Now, I've not talked about my love of architecture much on this channel before. You got it a little bit on the History channel in my History of Birmingham thing, where I talked about the old town hall building in Birmingham, which is based on the Temple of Castor and Pollux from the ancient Roman Forum. It's a beautiful building. And I don't think I've ever talked about my love of bridges. I'm a fan of a nice bridge. It's the beautiful synthesis of beauty and function that I like about bridges. But anyway, we don't need to go into my weird fucking psychosis. So, not psychosis, neuroses. Anyway, Donald Trump signed an executive order on Monday looking to ensure that federal buildings feature, quote, beautiful, unquote, architecture, expressing a preference for classical architecture over modernist designs. So it literally is the reject modernity, embrace tradition bullshit that fascists love to go on about. He's just echoing fascist nonsense. He's such an embarrassing dolt. He really is. Fucking hell. Just pandering to fascist scum to the last. Now, the description of what they mean by beautiful is very loose, and their description of what they think is classical architecture is very strange as well. The order does not explicitly define what standards buildings must meet to be considered beautiful, saying that new federal buildings should be of classical design, but not mandating that style. The order defines the classical architecture as, quote, the architectural tradition derived from forms, principles and vocabulary of the architecture of Greece and ancient Roman antiquity, and that, quote, encompasses such styles as neoclassical, Georgian, federal, Greek revival, Beaux Arts and Art Deco, unquote. Now, Art Deco is a 20th century architectural style. It's a beautiful architectural style. If you go to the town of Dunedin in New Zealand, they have, because they had an earthquake during the period in which Art Deco was very big, they've got like a sort of weird town of Art Deco. It's really odd, but really beautiful. So that's not classical in the slightest. Georgian isn't really classical either. Greek revival and federal, I believe, are just copies of like ancient shit, and Beaux Arts is a 19th century thing. So that's not really classical. Those aren't classical. And not just that, but the fact that it uses words like antiquity and vocabulary and architectural and things like that, encompasses as well. Donald Trump did not write this. This is a Stephen Miller one, definitely. Because he's one of the vaguely intelligent fascists that's around in America right now. And the theme of intelligent fascism, or intelligent fascists, I should say, will be recurring during tonight's proceedings. How are we all in the chat? Are we well? Yeah, exactly. Art Deco isn't classical, it's nonsense. Yeah. Napier, sorry, not Dunedin. Somewhere where they've played cricket, and that's where I heard that story from. Anyway. Yes, it applies to all federal courthouses, agency headquarters, DC public buildings, and all other public buildings costing more than $50 million. Arguing that some of the Founding Fathers, quote, attached great importance to federal civic architecture. They also did to the ownership of human beings. I don't care what the Founding Fathers thought. The order laments how in the 1950s and 60s the federal government largely replaced traditional designs with new construction, for new construction with modernist ones. Now again, the idea that it's traditional or modernist is obviously a ridiculous understanding of history, okay? You have buildings like this. This is one of my favourite buildings, arguably my favourite building in the world. Familia. This is the Sagrada Familia, a massive cathedral in the centre of Barcelona. And I want pictures, don't I? Images! Right, that's what it looks like on the outside. Hang on, I need to move this, don't I? There we go. That's what it looks like on the outside. And it is a genuinely spectacularly beautiful building. I've been there myself, I've been inside it. No, but this is, look at it. It's like, it's something otherworldly about it. It's absolutely glorious. This is not, even though it looks vaguely sort of Gothic or vaguely classical, it isn't. It isn't. It's a Gaudi building. It's 19th century. Just saying. And then you look on the inside, and look at that. Look, that's like the inside. I don't even know what that looks. It's like the inside of a fucking spaceship or something. I don't know what that's supposed to be. It doesn't look like humans can make this. Oh, it's just. I genuinely like. I'm not a religious man, and I wasn't when I went to this building. But I can understand why when one looks at things like this, how you could feel you're in the presence of God, because this isn't like steel makes sense to me. You build steel structures and then you can put like a building around the outside of it, but the structure is steel. It makes sense. This is fucking stone. What you're seeing here are big bits of rock on top of other bits of rock. It's a bit more complicated than that, but that's the basic gist of it when you boil it down. And yet they've created something so spectacular that you think, well, I'm not sure men can create these things. I don't know what this is. This must be some sort of god or alien creature that allows these things to happen. How the fuck can this be? How? It's spectacular. I love it. And this is the thing. It's not a classical building. It's done to a certain extent in a classical style, but it's not a classical building. And it doesn't have to be. This absurd notion that you have either classical or modern. Well, yeah, there's iron in there as well, of course, because it's like a relatively modern building, of course. But all you can see is the stone. By the way, and also again with my love of bridges, one of my favourite bridges is Tower Bridge in London, which is the very famous one. It opens and closes so that you can. Was that even on screen? My motion there. It opens and then shuts to allow ships through. Which, by the way, is not the one referenced in the Fergie song when she says, "My London Bridge will not go down," because London Bridge is a static bridge. It doesn't move at all. She's thinking of Tower Bridge. She got that wrong. Silly. Anyway, yes, it's absolutely beautiful thing. Tower Bridge. London Bridge is actually very, very. The modern one, anyway, is very, very bland. But the reason London Bridge was famous because it was one of the first major bridges across the Thames, and of course it used to be much bigger and grander, and was basically like a little city in of itself. You had shops on it and buildings and things. Bars and restaurants and all the rest of it. Anyway, so this is Tower Bridge, right? Hang on, I need to put that back in the fucking centre of the screen. Right. All of the brickwork you can see is entirely a facade. Yeah. If you took all of the brickwork out, it would still work exactly as it does now. It's fine. The brickwork is literally just for show, and it's beautiful. But do you see the iron on these bits here? That's what the actual bridge is. The entire bridge is just iron, and the stone is just a facade to make it look nice, which is awesome. I love that. It's so beautifully deceptive. Anyway, it's not a fake bridge. It's a perfectly good bridge. It's just that the stonework, it actually doesn't need to be there. If anything, it's a slight hindrance because it weighs a lot. The iron has to hold that up as well. Anyway, so you don't, yeah, the idea that it has to be, it has to be either modern or classical is nonsense. That's not how any of this works. You get beautiful ancient buildings, you get beautiful modern buildings, and you get beautiful modern styles of buildings. I've said this before. There are buildings like, say, I suppose the Empire State Building is a modern building, and that's a beautiful thing in of itself. You get buildings like, I like the Selfridges building in Birmingham. Images. See, I like that. I think that's a beautiful... Hang on, I keep fucking moving the thing, don't I? I think that's a beautiful building right there. I think that's a glorious thing. And up close, it's really nice as well. It's like shiny silver discs on the outside. I think that's beautiful. And that's obviously a very modernist kind of design. You get buildings like the Shard in London. Again, it's a fucking beautiful building. I'm sorry, that just is. And the way that it separates out at the top... Hang on, that one. The way that it kind of separates out at the top as well, I think is really nice. Again, a modernist building, a very tall building, very beautiful building, especially in the when you get the reflection in the light like that. It becomes like a kind of, almost a little bit like the pyramids in many respects. The pyramids, if you don't know, the ancient pyramids at Giza, actually were covered in limestone, shiny limestone blocks originally, and would have been essentially a kind of silvery colour, especially in the sun. Rather than what they look like now. Those outer blocks were destroyed and knocked off mostly in the... there was a earthquake in, I think it was the 12th century or something. And some of that brickwork was taken away to be used in the Alabaster Mosque in Cairo. Anyway. So you get lots of great modern buildings and lots of great old buildings. Lots of different styles of buildings which are beautiful and functional, right? The fact that you get this kind of, the fact that you get a kind of functionality over beauty thing in modern architecture is often actually not because modern architecture is bad, but because capitalism has, like in so many other areas of the world and areas of life and of culture, sucked beauty out of the situation because they're only interested in the bottom line. And like I say, with something like London Bridge, technically I suppose capitalism of a sort was around at the time it was built, but it was more a mercantilist capitalism rather than the free market laissez-faire nonsense of modern era. Capitalism today wouldn't give a tuppenny jizz for the beautiful stonework on the outside. You only need the iron, so why build anything else? It's capitalism stripping away beauty, because beauty doesn't necessarily make money. Beauty is not something you can put on a chart and sell as a concept to investors, to stockholders, to shareholders. That's actually the problem here. And Donald Trump is a perfect example of that, because if you've seen Trump Tower, it's an ugly building built by an ugly man. And I don't just mean ugly on the outside. Sorry, Tower Bridge. Sorry, did I say London Bridge again? I'm getting to... Fucking Fergie has got in my head. That being the singer rather than the former Manchester United manager. Anyway, London Bridge. If it was to be built today under capitalism, they'd build some sort of monstrous iron thing and not put the beautiful brickwork on the outside. And probably not even bother to paint it very well. They'd just paint it in that rust-proof stuff. And that's it. That's ultimately the problem, right? I just thought London Bridge is so boring, only just joined. Yeah, London Bridge is boring, because it's just a static concrete bridge. It used to be beautiful, I'll tell you a little bit of dive into history. Old London Bridge. We only have drawings of it because it was before photography, but this is the old London Bridge. Hang on, it's not a very big image, that one, is it? That's a bit bigger. Right, that's what it used to be, right? There were shops and houses and all kinds of shit. It was like a little city in of itself. That's why it became famous, London Bridge. And it was one of the oldest. It'd been around. There'd been a bridge at the site, roughly, of London Bridge since the Roman days. And like I say, there were shops and houses and bars and restaurants and all kinds of fucked up shit. Pickpockets and prostitutes and every part of London life existed on London Bridge. It was said that it was quicker to walk down to, was it Putney Bridge, I think, further down the river, and walk across than to try and get across London Bridge. And safer. Anyway, so that's why that was a thing. Anyway, so yeah, Donald Trump trying to sign this, A, is pointless because it'll just get overturned, and B is horrible because it's signalling to fascists about fascist shit, and C is stupid on an intellectual level because viewing architecture in the way that he seems to, like I say, it's Stephen Miller. It's not Trump that's written this. Viewing Stephen Miller, viewing architecture in the way that Stephen Miller does is intellectually bereft, frankly. It's so dumb. It's so dumb and so counterproductive because the only reason great buildings like that are still around is because people found them beautiful. There would have been old buildings which didn't survive because people thought they were ugly. And the same will be true of buildings built today. That's how buildings sort of survive, because people found them useful or beautiful or both. It's ridiculous. Anyway, it's silly. So fuck all those people. Am I right or wrong about that, by the way? Does anyone care? Probably not. Anyway. Yes. So, moving on to another piece of nonsense, but this time, good. This time, good American news. I've talked in the whole aftermath of the American election about the fact that there needs to be repercussions for the lies. I've talked endlessly about people like Sidney Powell and Linwood and Rudolph Giuliani and all the rest of them making obviously false accusations against real people and real companies. It amounts to nothing more than, sedition to an extent, but also in terms of the financial side of things, it's corporate sabotage. They're trying to fuck over innocent companies who've done nothing to try and steal an election. In fact, actually, their technology has aided in the safe undertaking of the American election. And it seems that some of the chickens are coming home to roost. We did cover the fact that Christopher Krebs, the former election safety official that Trump sacked when that said official, Krebs, came out and signalled that this was the safest election in American history. There was no nonsense involved here. And Trump sacked him. And because of all of that schmozzle, the usual crowd of dipshits in the media went after Krebs and said that he was part of the deep state and he was in on it and he'd taken money from China and all that sort of stuff. He is now suing those people. And the march of time allows for other such instances. This occasion, NewsMax, which was one of the darlings of the far right. It was a sort of even worse version of Fox News, right? It was Fox News's crack addict sister, let's say that. But even they are not immune to reality, it seems, especially financial reality. NewsMax moves to distance itself from Trump's baseless claims of US fraud. Now, I'll play you the video in just a second, but I want to get down to this, right? So the network made a statement, which we'll be watching shortly. The network statement follows legal notices from Smartmatic demanding that NewsMax, One American News Network, and Fox News retract their coverage after Giuliani, Powell and right-wing allies falsely connected Smartmatic to states where Donald Trump's legal team has contested election results. So they've sent out legal notices saying you have to retract the story, otherwise we're going to sue you. And they know they've got nothing. Fox News, NewsMax, One American News, they all know there's no evidence to this. They know they've been lying. And they reveal that in the same way that Alex Jones has when he's been threatened with lawsuits and had to apologise and say, oh no, I made that shit up. Which he's done many times, by the way. They reveal themselves when they have to come out and give obviously contradictory statements to things they've said in the past.
Election day, various guests.
Let me pause. There we go. This is a segment from Fox News, right? Sorry, from NewsMax. There's a Fox News one upcoming. Let me just give a second. So there's been legal threats from Smartmatic, and I presume Dominion are probably going to follow suit as well, because of all the lies and the hatred and all the rest of it. And yeah, NewsMax came out with this delicious piece of audio-visual beauty.
Since Election Day, various guests, attorneys, and elected officials have appeared on NewsMax and offered opinions and claims about Smartmatic and Dominion Systems, both companies that offer voting software in the U.S., and NewsMax would like to clarify its news coverage. And
we'd like to clarify. We'd like to reiterate in a completely different way. We'd like to say we were full of shit, but do so in a way that hopefully doesn't get us cancelled too hard. More on that in a second.
Note that it has not reported as true certain claims made about these companies.
Yes, you have. You absolutely have, you lying bastards. I hope they take you for every penny you've got.
There are several facts our viewers and readers should be aware of. NewsMax has found no evidence that either Dominion or Smartmatic owns the other,
which is something that many of your guests and hosts have claimed,
or has any business association with each other,
which again many of your hosts and guests have claimed.
We have no evidence that Dominion uses Smartmatic software or vice versa,
which again you have claimed many times.
No evidence has been offered that Dominion or Smartmatic used software or reprogrammed software that manipulated votes in the 2020 election.
Really, NewsMax? That is surprising to me, because I'm sure I've seen many clips of people, not just guests, making strange statements, but hosts, main fucking hosts on your network, saying the precise opposite of the thing you just said. That doesn't seem so much of a clarification as you backpedaling harder than if you watch the fucking Tour de France on rewind, you dopey bastard. Fucking hell. They've got nothing. They've seen no evidence of election tampering whatsoever. You fucking shitheels. You absolute dirtboxes. Fuck's sake.
Smartmatic has stated that its software was only used in the 2020 election in Los Angeles, was not used in any battleground state contested by the Trump campaign. NewsMax has no...
Again, you've claimed the exact opposite. You said Smartmatic, through the ghost of Hugo Chavez, was fucking the US elections. You fucking dipshits.
Evidence to the contrary. Dominion has stated the company has no ownership relationship with the Pelosi family, the Feinstein family, the Clinton family, Hugo Chavez, or the government of Venezuela.
They're still talking about Chavez in the present tense. Fuck me. That's amazing. Oh, I love it. Fucking love it.
Well, neither Dominion nor Smartmatic has any relationship with George Soros.
Soros be praised. The eye of Soros sees all.
Smartmatic is a U.S. company and not owned by the Venezuelan government.
Are you sure? Because I'm sure I've seen people on your fucking network claim the opposite.
Hugo Chavez or any foreign official or
They're
entity.
still talking about him like he's
Smartmatic
alive.
states that it has no operations in Venezuela, while the company did election projects in Venezuela from 2004 to 2017. It states it was never founded by Hugo Chavez, nor did it have a corrupt relationship with him or the Venezuelan government. For more on this, please go to our website at newsmax.com. Read facts about Dominion Smartmatic that you should know.
Shall we have a look, shall we? Oh, NewsMax. Dominion. Facts. That's a silly rhyme, isn't it? NewsMax as clarification. Yeah, oh God. Was it newsmax.com? Let's see if they advertise it prominently anywhere on their website. Here we go. Is that centered? It is not. There we go. Right. Newsmax. Biden says hack of US security. Trump failed. Interesting. Oh, they've got Conrad Black, convicted fraudster, on as one of their insiders. Good stuff. Pat Buchanan, garbage bag. Who else have they got? I don't know the rest of those fucking people. Anyway. Smartmatic. I don't see Smartmatic anywhere here. Have I missed it? Okay, keep scrolling, I suppose. No, you definitely cannot show me notifications at all. Newsmax, you can suck a dick. Hang on. Smartmatic. Facts about Dominion and Smartmatic you should know. Oh, this is beautiful. Since election day, various guest attorneys software. We have no evidence that they use software or vice versa. So is this literally just word for word what he said? It is, isn't it? Yeah. Neither Dominion nor Smartmatic has any relationship with George Soros. George, we got away with it, mate. Yeah. ASMR. Anyway, yeah. That's literally it's just the statement. They're doing the bare minimum to try not to get sued. Very funny. I hope it doesn't work though. I hope they get taken to the cleaners. Anyway, doesn't stop there though, because you may have seen this cheeky chappie popping up on various of these right-wing fucking things. He's the owner of, what's his name? His name is Mike Lindell. He owns the My Pillow company, which I'm not particularly aware of. I don't know if My Pillow is here in Britain. Yeah. Oh no, I've got the salon thing. Yeah, Fox News. Don't worry. I'm going to run the Fox News clip in just a second. So Mike Lindell, owner of the My Pillow company, has put on several of these Stop the Steal marches and has spoken at them. He was the one, you may remember, cropped up in a show I did with Christy when he said that we live in the end times and that that's a good thing. Yeah, literally wishing the destruction of all mankind. Conservatism is a death cult. It's very much a death cult, everyone. Anyway, he doesn't own My Pillow, or does he not? Okay, well he's the My Pillow guy. I don't know, he's got money from My Pillow in some respect. Did he used to? Did he found it or something? I don't know. Anyway, he's a lunatic and all the rest of it. And he was on with Seb Gorka. You remember he was a friend of Donald Trump and all the rest of it? And is also corrupt as shit. Both of them are. And, yeah, under legal duress, Newsmax is now censoring its guests who try and say the thing that they used to say that now they know legally they're going to get fucked for. It's very good.
I believe in this president, and I'll tell you what, nobody realizes, I mean, what a miracle we had on election night at 11:15. You know, you talked about all this fraud, Doctor. The biggest fraud is the Dominion machines. And at 11:15 on election night, our great president, because of everything
Mike, I don't want to discuss, Mike, we're not going to get into the minutiae of the details.
No, we don't against the minutiae of the details. Seb Gorka had someone in his ear there going, shut this fucker up. Shut him up now.
ask you, because this show is about courage. It's
Right.
hosted by a guy who's a former Marine. I want to know why you, Mike Lindell, are supporting the president in these legal cases.
Well, because everything's on the line here. I believe in this president.
So he was going to go on to the fraud stuff, and Seb Gorka went, no, I don't want the detail. Let's just talk about the president and how much we want to suck his dick. Yay! Yes. Go to Parler Takes. See what's been going on Parler, shall we, about NewsMax. There was some stuff here earlier, wasn't there? Where is it? I could have had this bit lined up, couldn't I? Never mind. Where's NewsMax? Come on. Kamala scares the shit out of you white guys, lol. It's very true. Come on. Where was it? Replace the FBI with 4chan. Hilarious. Oh my god, Joe Bolsonaro's on Parler. Oh, what a piece of shit. Good god. Wait. I'm sure I saw some earlier. How long ago was it? I don't know. Oh, this was funny. It's Milo Yiannopoulos says, it's time to be honest, Trump was a failure. Fun as fuck, but a failure. Lol. Parler, because we can't spell Parler. That's good. Oh, I can't see. They were cancelling fucking Newsmax anyway for this. And they were certainly cancelling Bill Barr for saying, nah, we don't need a fucking... We don't need shit. Mitt Romney with 1 T is a disgrace. Okay. Oh, I can't find the fucking... Anyway, they were cancelling them. God grant us a world without Trump. That's the thing. Parler is a mixture of people who love Trump and people who want to take the piss out of people who love Trump. Which is why I'm on there. Actually, should we take a look? See if anyone responded to me from the other day. Let's have a look. Probably not, I imagine. PragerU, capitalism or socialism, which one is more democratic? Lol. Fucking lol. That's me, by the way. If you're on Parler, go and follow me. I am at Ghost of Chavez. With and that's my look at his cheeky little grin. Absolutely lovely. Anyway, but yeah, they were cancelling Newsmax is the basic point. So, MyPillow have a factory in Coventry. Do they? MyPillow have a... For fuck's sake, MyPillow Coventry. It's just down the road from Birmingham, which is where I live. MyPillow... Yeah, shit. Shit. Yeah, they have a place in Coventry. I didn't know that. Well, there you go. Shiver my timbers. Anyway, talking of... Coventry? No, this has got nothing to do with Coventry. Who cares? Talking of fascists, they bombed Coventry really badly back in the war. Yes, Fox News. They're also, as we saw earlier, being taken to task by Smartmatic for the lies that their people, not just their guests, again, their hosts, have been trying to get away with for the last few weeks. Fox News hosts caught in a web of lies. Maria Bartiromo, Janine Pirro, Lou Dobbs, all forced by the network to air exact same video of an expert debunking all the conspiracy theories they've been peddling. Expect it to run on Hannity, Tucker and Laura too. Oh, beautiful. So yeah, they're all trying to cover their arse legally. Lol.
Where for elections, we asked him what he knew about Smartmatic and the claims some have made about that company.
Have you seen any evidence that Smartmatic software was used to flip votes anywhere in the U.S. in this election?
I have not seen any evidence that Smartmatic software was used to delete, change, alter anything related to vote tabulation.
Smartmatic says its software was never used outside of LA County in 2020. Do you know whether or not that's true?
That is my understanding. I am not aware of them having any other direct customers, relationships with election officials in the United States.
Oh, this is going to hurt the right-wingers. You've got so little that you can't even defend yourself against a lawsuit. Fucking hell. Elon Musk got away with calling the dude a paedophile, and he didn't have any evidence. So you've got even less than that.
What about Smartmatic and Dominion? Do you know if they're related, whether one owns the other, whether Dominion uses Smartmatic software?
Both Dominion and Smartmatic have individually and respectively put out very clear statements from their corporate headquarters, each of them indicating they are independent companies, they are not related to each other.
Have you seen any evidence of a connection between George Soros and Smartmatic?
I'm not aware of any direct connection between George Soros and Smartmatic. It is my understanding that an executive at Smartmatic has some sort of relationship with one of Soros's foundations. That's the extent of my knowledge.
Have you seen any evidence of Smartmatic sending U.S. votes to be tabulated in foreign countries?
No, I'm not aware of any evidence that Smartmatic is sending U.S. votes to be tabulated in foreign countries, as others have pointed out, irrespective of which voting technology vendor we're talking about. In the United States, the ballots that are cast in the United States are tabulated in the United States.
Are you aware of any instances in which Smartmatic's technology was banned in the U.S. in 2020 due to security weaknesses or wrongdoing?
I am not. I'm not aware of any instances where Smartmatic's technology was banned in the U.S. Again, it is my understanding that outside of one customer in Los Angeles County.
Oh, beautiful. The Kraken getting absolutely gangbanged. Oh, beautiful. One cock for every tentacle. Anyway, so yeah, actions have consequences. Fuck around and find out, people. Yeah? You play with fire, you get your fingers burnt. You play with feathers, you get your butthole tickled. It happens. Anyway, so I would say the retraction, because the retraction wasn't good enough. Whether Smartmatic feel that they can go up against Rupert Murdoch's billions and the lawyers that entails, I don't know, but we'll see. I will certainly keep you very much up to date with all of that. Fun times ahead, I'm sure. Absolutely. Anyway, what's this? Oh, the Salon.com article. I do have that linked, but whatever. Check your Twitter. There's a Salon report on the class action suit. Really, the guy to ask Legal Eagle on the subject, or Riley Grace? Indeed. Let's have a look. Yeah, no, I already looked at that. Yeah. Yeah. Go. Hang on. Sorry. Yeah. Anyway, the My Pillow guy sells children's books about cavemen. What? Does he? That's really strange. Sorry. Okay. Well, whatever. Doesn't matter. Anyway, we now move on to the slightly less brilliant, in fact, a lot less fucking brilliant, dive into shitty turfdom that the BBC has engaged in. We've discussed before about how the BBC has enabled turf bullshit to proliferate in Britain. It's a damn shame that the BBC has gone down this path. It used to be a genuinely well-respected news organisation, and it's killing itself. And it's a real shame. So we move on to this fucking nonsense. Right. The Bertrand Russell Award is named after Bertrand Russell, who was, as it says there, the Nobel Prize for Literature winner in 1950. He was a writer, philosopher, academic back in the middle of the 20th century. Well, actually the beginning and middle of the 20th century, and was a hugely influential dude. Incredibly brilliant dude. And to see J.K. Rowling put up there alongside Bertrand Russell is sickening to me, both in terms of the writing and in terms of the intellectual rigour. Anyway, the Bertrand Russell Award is handed out, is named after Bertrand Russell. And it, to honour people who've written bravely or intellectually or whatever over the past year. And I don't know the other 4 people involved here, so I'm not going to comment on them. I don't know who these people are or what they did. I don't care. It's not the purpose of this. One of the fucking pricks, though, is this particular piece of transphobic scum. Let's just put it that way. Joanna Rowling, or J.K. Rowling, a writer of the Harry Potter books. And this is the vague point at which that was Wade Davis. I don't know who he is, though. Is that a person of note, whatever? Anyway, the point of the thumbnail which I put together is actually quite a good thumbnail if you know the pieces. Okay, you need to know who a guy called Enoch Powell is. We'll get into that as we go along. You're thinking to yourself at the second, what's Enoch Powell got to do with J.K. Rowling? Well, we'll wait and see. So, this fawning twat writes, 3. J.K. Rowling, reasons for speaking out on sex and gender issues. Not necessarily knowing about sex and gender issues, just speaking on them. J.K. Rowling is almost certainly the greatest writer of English children's fiction of her generation. Time out, home slice. Most successful, undoubtedly. Greatest? That's a broader subject. Not sure she fits that description. Anyway. And a remarkable humanitarian. Citation needed. It turns out she writes exhilaratingly powerful prose too. Do you want to suck her dick anymore, mate? In a blog about the transgender debate, she offended many people. Offence is the price of free speech. That is true to an extent, but there's a difference between saying something that's true that's offensive and something that's demonstrably scientifically untrue and offensive. She's not a good writer. I'm sorry, she isn't. Those offended felt she was questioning their identity and even attacking their human rights. She was, and is. Which they argue is a form of discrimination or hate speech. Again, it is. I take absolutely no view whatsoever on the issues that she raises. Oh, well, that's very convenient for you, isn't it, Amel? You fucking piece of shit. You're going to play the, well, I'm the enlightened centrist. I'm not necessarily going to take a position on this, bro. Fuck you. I do take a position on abuse and trolling, and Rowling has achieved the inglorious honour of topping many a league table for those. She's also caused a lot of bullying of other people, by the way. The deluge of hatred that she has faced before writing this blog made it brave, and it was nothing compared to what came after. Talking about bravery, so too, by the way, was Suzanne Moore's engrossing long essay for Unheard on why she left The Guardian. So, more love for transphobic scum. Awesome. This is the BBC, one of the foremost news gathering organisations of Earth. Fuck you. We should all applaud bravery in writers. Again, just saying dumb shit is not bravery. I have the same problem with Trump people when they say it's just a joke or whatever. Just saying an offensive thing isn't funny. And just writing an offensive thing isn't bravery. It's just dumb. It's just really dumb. Stop it. Even those with whom we disagree. Which you clearly don't, you fucking coward. And Rowling's essay contains moments of both real beauty and piercing honesty. Fucking hell. As when she revealed she was a survivor of domestic abuse and sexual assault. What the judges, that is the voices in my head, most admired about the writing was the plain English. It is an interesting fact about rhetoric that if you want people to understand something, plain monosyllabic words are usually your best bet. Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country, is the quote he gives there. It doesn't attribute that, I think it's a Kennedy quote. Anyway. And then it gets weird. Look, the first bit is disgusting. Don't get me wrong. I think I've interspersed my own commentary there to give you that indication that I think that's disgusting. Now it gets really odd. And this led to Enoch Powell, who was a figure, again, I will explain in just a second, trending in Britain. And that's always a worrying sign. Or think of the final line from Enoch Powell's most notorious speech. Quote, "All I know is that to see and not to speak would be the great betrayal, unquote. The speech he's referring to is called the Rivers of Blood speech. It's an interesting name for it because he never actually uses the phrase rivers of blood at all. He does mention a biblical allegory to seeing the rivers flowing with blood. It's a biblical story of, I believe, the plagues, not Noah's plagues. Who was the fucking guy who did the? Oh God. Anyway, that fucker, Moses, and the 7 plagues. Anyway, which is his reference to racial violence in Britain. It's a phenomenally, despicably racist speech, which we will be taking a look at in just a second, because it cropped up and I don't think I've ever covered it on my channel before, and it's worth debunking some of the nonsense. Because even though it was a speech from 1968, it still has political power, unfortunately. Anyway, I'm not endorsing the argument. Why did you bring it up at all? You really didn't need to. You already had the JFK quote. You could have just gone with that, mate. But the rhetorical power of that line comes from the fact that there are 16 words, and the first 15 of them have 1 syllable, and the last of which has 3. So he's just doing weird numerology or something now. Compare it with this line in Rowling's essay. Quote, so I want trans women to be safe. At the same time, I do not want natal girls and women less safe, which I don't know why she feels that those two things can't be compatible. It's ridiculous. The rhetorical power from those 2 sentences derives partly from the plainness of the English. Only women twice and natal contain more than 1 syllable. If you're ever editing copy that seems verbose, go through it and think about cutting syllables while conveying the same meaning. Plain English has power. J.K. Rowling gets that. She writes simply for simple people. TERFs. Anyway, so that's all fucking disgusting, and the fact that he tries to intellectual fucking centrist the piece by saying I'm not taking a position on this, but I do love me some fucking transphobes. You know, that is disgusting. Anyway, but it's really, really weird that he would invoke the name of Enoch Powell. I don't understand quite why he went that route. Enoch Powell, it's difficult to really explain to someone outside of Britain what Enoch Powell means. I'll give you the brief rundown, okay? Because I mentioned earlier intelligent fascists. Stephen Miller probably being one. Although I'm not entirely sure how incredibly intelligent he is. He's certainly scheming and certainly duplicitous, but I don't know if he's necessarily intelligent. But he seems to be intelligent enough to come across that way. Although this is comparing him to his boss Trump, who's a fucking moron, so you know. Again, America should be very grateful that it's been taken over by a moron fascist. Anyway, Enoch Powell was a British politician, actually born in my own hometown of Birmingham, my own home city, I suppose. It's the 2nd largest city in the country, Kev. My own home city of Birmingham, although he served as MP for Wolverhampton, or one of the Wolverhampton seats during the 50s and 60s, and I believe into the 70s, and then went to Northern Ireland and ran as a candidate and was MP there until 1980 something. Should we get the actual dates? Oh, fuck. Enoch Powell. There we go. Yes, right. We'll get the exact dates for you. He was, MP for Wolverhampton South West from 1950 to 1974, and was MP for South Down, which is, there were some fantastic phrases like that in Northern Irish politics, South Down, from 74 to May the 18th, 1987. He stopped being an MP 3 days before I was born. Coincidence? Yeah, but still, pretty cool. So technically he was never an MP during my lifetime. Awesome. Although my mother was very heavily pregnant when he lost. So, there you go. Anywho, yes. His name was John Enoch Powell. There you go. Anyway. So, yeah, but he was actually a very, very intelligent guy, okay? He was an ancient Greek professor, wasn't he, or something? Yeah, classical scholar becoming a full professor of ancient Greece at the age of 25, which is fucking mental. Anyway, so he's not a stupid fascist. He's one of these motherfuckers that had he been able to really gain proper power, he would have been very, very dangerous. He was a Minister of Health, Financial Secretary to the Treasury when the Tories were in power, and was Shadow Secretary of State for Defence until, you may notice there, 1968. And that's because the speech that's being quoted in that piece, the Rivers of Blood speech, which we're going to take a look at in a second, was so racist that even in 1968, which was a phenomenally racist time, it was too racist, and he was fired from the shadow cabinet of the Conservative Party. And that's who they're like comparing to J.K. Rowling in some sort of positive light or something. It's very, very strange, man. I fucking hate it. I hate it so much. Anyway, so this is the Rivers of Blood speech.
Grammar
right?
school.
Oh, hang on. But this is a recording bit, right? And I'll explain for why in just a second. The actual speech itself was in Birmingham in 1968, as you can see in just a second. But for some reason, only... Hang on, no, that's not right. That's the wrong thing entirely, Kev. Only about 8 minutes of the actual speech was recorded on film.
Enoch Powell was the most controversial of Tory politicians before Margaret Thatcher.
In this country,
but look, only
15 or 20 years
only part of the speech was actually recorded, and the audio is terrible. But because the transcript of the speech was so popular at the time, and it was, there's no doubt that England, but Britain more generally, is and was then a phenomenally racist place in so many ways. That he did a recording later on, I think later on that year, of the speech where the audio is, I mean, it's 1968 quality, but it's crisp audio because he's just in a studio recording it, and it's word for word the same. Literally it's his voice, it's him doing the recording, so it's the same speech. And I thought it'd be worth taking a little look and debunking some of the nonsense, because there are provable lies in this and provable nonsenses. Anyway, so yeah, let's take a listen, shall we?
The supreme function of statesmanship is to provide against preventable evils. In seeking to do so, it encounters obstacles which are deeply rooted in human nature. One is that by the very order of things, such evils are not demonstrable until they have occurred. At each stage in their onset, there is room for doubt and for dispute whether they be real or imaginary. By the same token, they attract little attention in comparison with current troubles, which are both indisputable and pressing.
Now, this is a tactic that a lot of even stupid fascists use, although because they're stupid fascists, they wouldn't use the more verbose and articulate and beautifully crafted words that he was just using there as a setup to his bit. But it's the same basic point. They'll say, this is true, it's demonstrable, we know it's true. Doesn't matter that it isn't. The nonsense that they'll speak about the way in which race relations operate, they're more than happy to just lie. That's what they do. But they'll try and get you on side, or get people, idiots, on side by saying everyone knows it. Everyone knows it. It's that mantra of if you don't see it, you're the odd one. If you don't see it, you're the outsider, you're the detached liberal elite. In America, they often use phrases like coastal elite or whatever. And the modern one is globalist, I suppose, as well. Although that adds more active, sinister elements to it rather than it just being not known. Anyway. Yeah, Satan occultism is demonstrably true. Yeah, they'll say dumb shit like that. Like, they're definitely, like Pizzagate's demonstrably true. It's not. It's nonsense.
Whence the besetting temptation of all politics to concern itself with the immediate present at the expense of the future. Above all, people are disposed to mistake predicting troubles for causing troubles, and even for desiring troubles. If only, they love to think, if only people wouldn't talk about it, it probably wouldn't happen.
That's another very typical one, although again, it's tantalising listening to him speak what he could have been had he not been a complete scumbag. Well, yeah, no, Enoch Powell is worm food. That is literally demonstrably true. He's been very dead for a while. I think, when was it he died? Hang on. I think, was it the late late 90s, whenever it was? Enoch Powell. Where's his? What were the Powell years? 1912. Gee, he died. Fucking hell, he was born in the year the Titanic sank. Fucking hell. 1998, aged 85. Well, only the good die young, I suppose. Yes. What was the point he made? Oh yeah, sorry. This is another thing they'll do. When they won't necessarily use the fantastic language he uses, and it's a joy to hear people speak in that way. It's a shame about modern politics that you don't have a more flowery use of language. I quite like that. I quite like having someone really well spoken. But it's the way of the world. It's fine, whatever. It's not the end of the world that's the case. Although you can have someone better than fucking Trump or Johnson. Jesus Christ. Bumbling fucking idiots, the pair of them. Anyway, it just goes to show you a private education doesn't necessarily guarantee that you're actually going to be any good. Whatever. Although it does guarantee that you're going to be able to fail upwards. So there's something there, I suppose. A possible worthwhile investment, albeit a disgusting skipping of the queue that should be outlawed because it's demonstrably shit. It's demonstrably shit. Shit's on lots of people. Anyhow, yeah, the point he made though about if just because I'm pointing out the problem doesn't mean that I'm causing the problem or that I want the problem to exist, and they'll do this now. Speaking out against the Muslims or the Jews or whatever, we don't hate them. We don't want violence to be done upon them or anything like that. We're just trying to calm the problem down. We're trying to head it off at the pass so that it doesn't spiral into Tim Pool Civil War. Yeah. So it's a very, very typical tactic that they'll use and have done for a while. It's emblematic, I think, of a lot of this speech, the Rivers of Blood speech, is emblematic of a lot of right-wing talking points, a lot of right-wing rhetorical styles, albeit that again using beautifully flourished language to promote bile and hatred.
Perhaps this habit goes back to the primitive belief that the word and the thing, the name and the object are identical.
Oh yeah, Eric Clapton, yeah, sorry. Someone was mentioning in the chat, yeah. Eric Clapton, he's a lot better now than he was, but yeah, he was famously, back when this speech came out, he was on stage and said that Enoch was right or something, which sparked the Rock Against Racism movement in defiance of him. Eric Clapton just cut an anti-COVID lockdown record with fellow right-wing washed-up crank Van Morrison. Oh no, is that true? Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, that's such a shame. Is anyone else getting the stream interrupted? It shouldn't be. I haven't dropped any frames, so the stream should be fine. I don't know if that's on your end. Sorry. Anyway, sorry. Right. Oh, you know, sorry, to Thinking Saber in the chat. Yeah, I saw the Dick Cavett bit with him and Jonathan Miller. It's very good. Jonathan Miller's very impressive.
Events.
Actually, it's there. Actually, you sent me the link, and if I scroll across, there it is, and you can see that I've already watched it. There you go. Anyway.
The discussion of future, grave, but with effort now, avoidable evils is the most unpopular and at the same time the most necessary occupation for the politician. Those who knowingly shirk it deserve and not infrequently...
Is it buffering? Again, I've dropped 0 frames, so I don't know why that would be happening. Sorry. Was just about to type it's been spot on when I got a buffer and another. Really? Don't tell me this is fucking copyrighted or some dumb shit. The bit rate is lower than recommended. Okay, well, yeah, but even so, it's still going through and I've dropped 0 frames. Shirk it. It's getting choppy sound. Really? Oh, why is it doing that? My bit rate's fine. Let's have a look. And I'll go to my... I don't have any notifications, that's true, but I want to go into that. 0 drop frames, 30 frames per second. Yeah, I don't know why it says the stream quality is good. Oh, I don't know. Fuck it. I'm just going to carry on and see where we get. I don't know. Where are we?
Receive the curses of those who come after. A week or two ago, I fell into conversation with a constituent, a middle-aged, quite ordinary working man employed in one of our nationalised industries.
Oh yeah, this was a speech given when we used to have nationalised industries. What a time to be alive.
After a sentence or two about the weather, he suddenly said, "If I had the money to go, I wouldn't stay in this country." I made some deprecatory reply to the effect that even this government wouldn't last forever, but he...
Yeah, because it was the Labour government at the time.
...took no notice and continued. "I have 3 children, all of them been through grammar school, and 2 of them married now with family. I shan't be satisfied till I've seen them settled overseas. In this country, in 15 or 20 years' time, the black man will have the whip hand over the white man. I can already hear the chorus of execration. How dare I say such a horrible thing? How dare I stir up trouble and inflame feelings by repeating such a conversation?"
Yes. How dare you? How dare you do that? The idea that the black man will have the whip hand over the white man in 15 to 20 years, which is the exact phrase he uses here and backs up. So even though he's quoting another person, he very much believes this. Is somewhat put to bed by the fact that 17 years after he gives this speech, there were 2 separate race riots in London based on the police essentially summarily executing black people. Yeah. This one in particular was the Broadwater Farm riot, which was the second of the 2, in 1985. So like I say, within his 15 to 20 years range, the events of the day were dominated by 2 this. The first was that of Cynthia Jarrett, an Afro-Caribbean woman, which, by the way, Afro-Caribbean is the way in which like a black British person is referred to. Like you might say African-American, but obviously we're not American, so we say Afro-Caribbean. It's the equivalent. Right? Whether you can argue about whether that's appropriate or not, I'm just saying that's the way it's used. Yeah, sorry, right. Afro-Caribbean woman who died previously the other day of heart failure during a police search at their home. Now, heart failure might sound like she had a problem. There were, quote-unquote, what was the exact phrase they used? It was disputed circumstances. They claimed that she was pushed to the floor and beaten, and the police denied that. Now, whenever we get a disputed circumstances, even today, when they've got like body cameras and there are CCTV cameras all around the place, whenever they're caught, the police are always lying. When have you ever known the police give a report of a thing only to then have video evidence of the thing and the police get corroborated? I don't think I've ever known that. I don't think that's a thing that really happens, is it? The police always lie to try and cover themselves. And again, essentially, killed a person, having shot, what was the person's name? Gross, yeah, Dorothy Cherry Gross, earlier in the year, shot her dead, another black woman dead. So the police are going around killing people to the point where, and no justice is gotten, by the way, because there were still racial, institutional racism problems with the police in the Stephen Lawrence investigation in the mid-90s, or early 90s. The idea that the black man had the whip hand over the white man within 15 to 20 years didn't pan out. It's a joke. It's a farce. You were being racist. You were trying to stir shit up. Enoch Powell, you are dead, and I'm glad you are, because you are fucking scum. Racist garbage. And anyone invoking your name, including Amal Rajan, who wrote the fucking piece about J.K. Rowling, you're trash too. Fuck you.
The answer is that I do not have the right not to do so. Here is a decent, ordinary fellow Englishman who in broad daylight, in my own town, says to me, his Member of Parliament, that his country will not be worth living in for his children.
Because black people exist. That's the problem. No one's saying you can't identify problems. Why am I talking as if I'm speaking to this man? He's dead. I'm pulling a Sidney Powell with Chavez now. Anyway, but I'm talking to you, the viewer. No one's saying there's a problem with identifying problems, and if you think they're so bad to the point where you don't like your country anymore, again, that's a perfectly justified position, as long as you have a reason for that. Their reason was, black and brown people are here? Wow, I'm sorry, but I'll put it to you, I think that's not really like a valid concern. That's not something that's really a problem. You're garbage.
I simply do not have the right to shrug my shoulders and think about something else. What he is saying, thousands and hundreds of thousands are saying and thinking.
And we all know if people believe a thing, it must be true.
Not throughout Great Britain, perhaps, but in the areas that are already undergoing the total transformation to which there is no parallel in 1,000 years of English history.
Yes, there is. It's ridiculous. The invasions of the Vikings, the invasions of the Normans, the Jutes, the Angles, the Saxons. Actually, yeah, no, there has been. There have been any number of invasions, as it often gets called, of such people. And actually, to be fair, a lot of those people I did mention were invasions, but they say that about the black and brown people of the 50s and 60s. So actually, you're just lying there as well. There has been transformation. Now, I dare say, although I don't think Enoch himself would have necessarily put it in this way, a lot of his fans will scoff at my mention of those other racial groupings because they were all white, or majority white, depending on exactly where you want to draw the line on whiteness, I suppose. As previously discussed, when you've got Benjamin Franklin describing the Germans as not being white enough, who knows exactly, but those other groups were largely white as we would now define white, and that's the problem that Enoch Powell and his crew had. The fact that these people were brown, the Afro-Caribbeans, the Indians, Pakistanis, so on and so forth, were of a darker hue of skin was their problem.
In 15 or 20 years, on present trends, there will be in this country 3.5 million Commonwealth immigrants and their descendants. That is not my figure. That is the official figure given to Parliament by the spokesman of the Registrar General's office.
So, I think it's vastly surpassed that now, by the way, but so...
There is no comparable official figure for the year 2000, but it must be in the region of 5 to 7 million.
Well, you must be glad you didn't reach the year 2000. Tss, zing.
Approximately 1/10 of the whole population and approaching that of Greater London. Of course, it will not be evenly distributed from Margate to Aberystwyth and from Penzance to Aberdeen. Whole areas, towns and parts of towns across England will be occupied by sections of the immigrant and immigrant-descended population.
Didn't have to be that way. If repeated Conservative, and to be fair, some Labour governments as well, had not instituted uber-capitalist policies which led to ghettoisation of racial groupings in cities, and indeed allowing that via weird public housing policy, and indeed the selling off of council housing stock, which meant all power that the government might have had to attribute racial groupings in a more uniform fashion. Yeah, if it weren't for those hideous policies put in power by governments that you were at least in part a part of, and then your party, the Conservative Party, later instituted as well. Once they'd kicked your ass out after this fucking speech, those problems might not have existed. Or certainly to nowhere near the same extent. Again, it's partly due to racialised fear invoked by people like Enoch Powell that led to these problems as well.
As time goes on, the proportion of this total who are immigrant descendants, those born in England, who arrived here by exactly the same route as the rest of us, will rapidly increase. Already by 1985, the native-born would constitute the majority. It is this fact which creates the extreme urgency of action now, of just that kind of action which is hardest for politicians to take. Action where the difficulties lie in the present, but the evils to be prevented or minimized lie several parliaments ahead. The natural and rational first question with a nation confronted by such a prospect is to ask, how can its dimensions be reduced? Granted it be not wholly preventable, can it be limited, bearing in mind that numbers are of the essence?
But why are numbers of the essence? You're taking that for granted that numbers are of the essence. I don't give two fucks what colour a person is. That's not at all a judgment that gets made. Now, by the way, I'm not doing the colourblind argument thing. I'm saying in terms of the people who live around me, they just, walk past me, whatever. They live in the same city as me, the same country as me. Their colour of skin is irrelevant. I don't care. Give me 1 million great black people over 1 million shit white people. Or vice versa. I don't care. I want good citizens. I don't care what colour those citizens are. And again, he reveals his racism thusly. That he sees it only as... he just wants the native born, as he said earlier. It's by native born he means white people, by the way, just in case you were wondering.
The significance and consequence of an alien element introduced into a country or population are profoundly different according to whether that element is 1% or 10%. The answers to the simple and rational question are equally simple and rational. By stopping or virtually stopping further inflow and by promoting the maximum outflow. Both answers are part of the official policy of the Conservative Party.
Clearly that wasn't quite the case because one of the reasons that Edward Heath, the then Conservative leader, sacked him was because he'd gone beyond the Conservative Party's policy in trying to stoke his racial animus. Or promote his racial animus, whatever.
It almost passes belief that at this moment 20 or 30 additional immigrant children are arriving from overseas in Wolverhampton alone every week. And that means 15 or 20 additional families a decade or two hence. Those whom the gods wish to destroy, they first make mad. We must be mad.
Must be mad. We must be mad to allow brown and black people into the country. JK, do you feel really proud to have been invoked in the same article as this piece of shit? Now, I know he wasn't literally saying she's as racist as him, but the fact that this is being like, there's a connection or whatever is just supremely funny to me.
Literally mad, as a nation, to be permitting the annual inflow of some 50,000 dependents, who are, for the most part, the material of the future growth of the immigrant-descended population. It is like watching a nation busily engaged in heaping up its own funeral pyre.
So Britain is killing itself by allowing brown people in. What the fuck are you talking about? What are you talking about, you fucking racist garbage bag?
So insane are we that we actually permit unmarried persons to immigrate for the purpose of founding a family with spouse...
No, to work. They then can have families, but they're going there to work. So basically, that's literally like an invoking of, they come over here and they're going to shag the white women. they're going to come over here and have babies with the white women. Good.
Spouses and fiancés whom they have never seen. Let no one suppose that the flow of dependents will automatically.
He sounds like Stephen Toast. Oh my god. He does. Oh no. Jesus Christ. He does sound like Stephen Toast. Oh, bollocks. Well, I'm never ever going to be able to watch Toast of London again then. I'm never going to be able to. Yes, I can hear you, Clem Fandango. And you're too brown. I added that last bit. Yeah. Fucking hell. It does sound like... Yeah. If you haven't watched Toast of London, you should, by the way. It's very good. It's an immensely funny show. And he does sound a bit like Toast of London. Yeah.
On the contrary, even at the present admission rate of only 5,000 a year by voucher, there is sufficient for a further 325,000 dependents per annum ad infinitum.
Yeah, and actually, it is the fear of black and brown women, black and brown men shagging white women. It is. There's a lot of racist bullshit, and I've made this point before, and some people think it's reductive, but I think there's a genuine... No, Stephen Toast is a fake name. It's the name of a comedy character from a show called Toast of London. Anyway, the man's real name is Matt Berry. He's the actor. It's very good. Who you may have seen in the IT Crowd, written by a certain transphobe who can't get work anymore. Hello, Glenna. Anyway, yes, a lot of racism from white supremacists is based on sexual inadequacy. A lot of their insecurities come from the fact that they think, A, black and brown people have bigger dicks than them, and that B, their wish to control white women is precisely because they think A, of them as property, and B, that if they don't, then they're going to go off and fuck black and brown men. That's it. I think there's a similar thing with the cuckoldery thing, that the right wing are obsessed with the idea of cuckoldery. A, because I think some of them, and I think this is the minority amongst them, of course, but I think some of them think that actually that would be pretty funny. Not pretty, pretty hot, if they might actually be into cuckoldery to some extent. But some of them, I think, are genuinely scared, terrified to their core that their girlfriend, partner, or just white women in general might cheat on them with black and brown people. That's where that comes from. I think a lot of it can be boiled down to sexual inadequacy and sexual dysfunction to some extent as well. I think it's difficult to be sexually confident and functional and not have deep psychosexual problems and be like some sort of hideous racist. I don't think you can be a normal, well-adjusted individual, or at least reasonably well-adjusted sexual being, and be racist. I don't think those two things jive very well. Although I'm sure there are always outliers in that, of course. Yeah.
Without taking into account the huge reservoir of existing relations in this country, and I am making no allowance at all for fraudulent entry. In these circumstances, nothing will suffice but that the total inflow for settlement should be reduced at once to negligible proportions.
So to virtually zero is the point, okay. Kevin, are you uploading any more MAGA cringe compilations? Yes, I am. I'm actually working on one not right this very second, but at the, generally speaking right now, which is about the reactions to the Supreme Court and / the Electoral College stuff. So yes. YouTube's word filtering is ruining my life, please. I'm sorry, I can't. There's nothing I can do about it, I don't think. Yeah, and it's not just sexual inferiority, because I'm sure some of them probably aren't, all tiny cocked fucking losers. And of course, most women, you can get most women off without the penis being involved for basically at all. There are other digital / oral / artificial stimuli that can be employed. In fact, many women can't get off at all with just a penis, for instance. So it's not a matter of sexual inferiority as such. It's sexual inadequacy or feelings of sexual inadequacy. It's to do with what they feel about themselves rather than what is necessarily true, which is very apropos of virtually all things that racists tend to believe. That's the way they operate. It's not what is real, it's what they perceive to be real.
And that the necessary legislative and administrative measures be taken without delay. I stress the words, for settlement. This has nothing to do with the entry of Commonwealth citizens, any more than of aliens, into this country. For the purposes of study or of improving their qualifications, like, for instance, the Commonwealth doctors who, to the advantage of their own countries, have enabled our hospital service to be expanded faster than would otherwise have been possible. These are not, and never have been, immigrants.
Apparently those people aren't immigrants because they're useful in a way that he likes. Nice double standard.
I return to re-emigration. If all immigration ended tomorrow, the rate of growth of the immigrant and immigrant-descended population...
Again, he means Bray doesn't mean immigrant, he means brown. Because he doesn't have a problem with Irish people coming over. In fact, like I say, he went to Northern Ireland to become an MP after the Tories kicked him out.
...would be substantially reduced. But the prospective size of this element in the population would still leave the basic character of the national danger unaffected.
National danger?
This can only be tackled while a considerable proportion of the total still comprises persons who entered this country during the last 10 years or so. Hence the urgency of implementing now the second element of the Conservative Party's policy, the encouragement of re-emigration.
The encouragement. Now that went so far. I mean, the Conservative Party were really racist during all of this. They literally had, I think it was in the late 60s, early 70s as well. There was a by-election in, I think, Solihull, which is where I went to high school, technically. Not technically, actually. Which had, if you want, I'll blur it, I'll censor it, but there was a hard R here, okay? If you want an N-word for a neighbour, vote Labour. Yeah, they ran on that shit. So they were really, really racist. But even they were saying encouragement to repatriation, whereas Powell went a lot further later on in saying that they should force repatriation on people. Anyway. Is this where the Great Replacement started? To a degree, yeah. I mean, it's the idea, and it's whether it's black people or Jews or whatever particular group these people want to go after. There's been some iteration of what we now know as the Great Replacement for quite some time.
Nobody can make an estimate of the numbers which, with generous grants...
In fact, I mean, we talk now. I mentioned earlier about what people consider to be white, because of course Italian immigrants, Irish immigrants into North America during the 19th and 20th centuries were treated as if they were replacement for the real whites, you know, the Anglo-Saxon type peoples. So yeah, there's, like I say, the idea of the Great Replacement as we now know it. The only thing that changes, this is the thing, across time, conservatism doesn't really change very much. Some of the dynamics change a little bit. Many of them were very anti-capitalism when it first came in, because traditionally it was feudalism, or traditionally it was mercantilism, or whatever. So some of the dynamics change in that regard. But in terms of their kind of rooting in base emotion, be it racism, sexism, homophobia, all of that sort of stuff, that doesn't really change. It just changes. The only thing that changes is the fungible element to it. So you can take out black people and put in Jews. You can take out Jews and put in women. You can put in gay people, or at the moment trans people are like the right-wing fucking hate de jour or whatever of they're the cause that they're going after at the moment, and they know it's like not cool to go after like Jewish people, or mainstream conservatives know it's not cool to go after Jewish people because we live in the aftermath of the Holocaust and that's seen as not cool. But you can go after Muslims, Not a problem. You can go after Muslims. And so the thing doesn't change. The same racist archetypes that existed then exist today, but you just change out whatever Group A for Group B or Group B for Group C. You know, it's the same basic shit for time immemorial.
And assistance would choose
the threat of the outsider. That's the thing. Your enemy is both strong and weak, right? So, like with black people, they say they're going to come over here and you know, fuck our women, and there's going to be no more white people. There's an existential dread. There's an existential power and dread, but also they're really stupid. Or with the Jews, like they're, I don't know, they're really sneaky and fucking powerful, and they're going to run everything and blah blah blah. But they're also, I don't know, what are some negative racial stereotypes about Jewish people? They're money hungry or something. You know, like they're just, there's a kind of, or the, you know, there aren't many of them. That's actually the thing with the Jewish one, is that there aren't many Jewish people in the world. If you look at the overall population, they're very small. So if there's that few of them and they've taken over, they must be awesome. Jews for the win.
Choose either to return to their countries of origin or to go to other countries anxious to receive the manpower and the skills they represent. Nobody knows, because no such policy has yet been attempted. I can only say that even at present, immigrants in my own constituency from time to time come to me asking if I can find them assistance to return home. If such a policy were adopted and pursued with the determination which the gravity of the alternative justifies...
No, what gravity of the alternative? Honest to goodness, this is fucking delusional. I live in Britain today. Enoch Powell was so wrong. Look, I'm not suggesting everything's perfect. Racial tensions exist. That's never not going to be the case. But those social forces would exist regardless of who was here. So if we didn't hate each other, or not we, as in all people, but if there weren't tensions based on race, it would be other geographic factors or class factors or economic factors or whatever. Those social forces don't just disappear because we're all white. We're not all right because we're all white. White Genocide 2021. In Minecraft. It's just a video game, no one gets hurt.
Could appreciably alter the prospects for the future. It can be no part of any policy that existing family should be kept divided. But there are two directions in which families can be reunited.
Left
and if our former and present immigration laws have brought about the division of families, albeit voluntary or semi-voluntary, we ought to be prepared to arrange for them to be reunited in their countries of origin. In short, suspension of immigration and encouragement of re-emigration hang together, logically and humanly, as two aspects of the same approach. The third element of the Conservative Party's policy is that all who are in this country as citizens should be equal before the law, and that there shall be no discrimination or difference made between them by public authority. As Mr. Heath has put it, we will have no first-class citizens and second-class citizens. This...
Well, yeah, but that doesn't extend to, like, economic justice, though, does it? So there are and were first and second class citizens. Just saying.
Does not mean that the immigrant and his descendants should be elevated into a privileged or special class, or that the citizen should be denied his right to discriminate in the management of his own affairs between one fellow citizen and another.
Yeah, because that's delusional, racist nonsense.
Or that he should be subjected to inquisition as to his reasons and motives for behaving in one lawful manner rather than another.
Well, to be fair, yeah, you say skin colour is based on light of the sun. He's not a very smart professor. He's not a professor of dermatology. Well, he's not anything now, he's dead, lol. But he was a professor of ancient Greek. So, I mean, yeah.
Another. There could be no grosser misconception of the realities than is entertained by those who vociferously demand legislation, as they call it, against discrimination. Whether they be leader writers of the same kidney, and sometimes on the same newspapers.
True, but this is the thing, right? This is the point. When Enoch Powell and his racist folks say stuff about like the legislation against discrimination type stuff, I would put it to them that if they genuinely fear that those racial groups wish to have the whip hand over them, why would you not want legislation in place to protect you from the irresponsible use of said whip hand? Or do you know, in fact, that you're always going to retain the whip hand and that you want free rein with which to whip people who are brown? Yeah, you don't sneak that one past me, Enoch, you dead prick.
Which year after year in the 1930s tried to blind this country to the rising peril which confronted it. Or archbishops who live in palaces, faring delicately with the bedclothes pulled right over their heads. They have got it exactly and diametrically wrong. The discrimination and the deprivation, the sense of alarm and resentment lies not with the immigrant population, but with those among whom they have come. And are still...
Yeah, white people are fragile as fuck, man. Yeah. Bang on. He's absolutely bang on in that. He thinks that's somehow something we should do, like we should give a fuck about, though. He's like, white people feel discriminated against. White people still make up the vast majority of people in Britain today, so fuck knows what it was like in... What was the demographic makeup? UK demographics 1968. Population. Hang on. Excepto. Okay. Does it give me racial breakdown? It does not. It only gives me men and women and density. Well, that's no fucking good then. What are you doing? Go. Oh, for fuck's sake. Why is it being silly now? Oh, it's gone onto its own fucking page. Brilliant. Dickhead. Right. I'm good at this, aren't I? I'm good at the demography of England. Okay. National census. Does it give me racial breakdown? Ethnicity. Okay. White British. That's 2011 is 79.8. So it's still fucking 80% nearly in 2011 was white British, and then another 1% is white Irish. That's my dad, basically. Actually, there's 517,000 of them, and then my dad is the one there. Hello, Dad. Anyway, yeah, that's 2011 though, isn't it? Ethnic groups in the UK. But hang on, how do I get to 68? Oh, that's England technically. I can't imagine it's going to be better or worse, whatever you define it. No, I don't know. Basically, it would have been a lot more. It would have been like 90% white or something. I don't know. Anyway, so he's talking shit. The idea that the 90% are being oppressed because there's a brown family in the street. Fucking hell.
Still coming. This is why to enact legislation of the kind before part pickup. This is why to enact legislation of the kind before Parliament at this moment is to risk throwing a match onto the gunpowder. The kindest thing that can be said about those who propose and support it is they know not what they do.
More Bible shit.
Nothing is more misleading than comparison between the Commonwealth immigrant in Britain and the American Negro. The Negro population of the United States...
Wowzer. He went there. He went there, people.
Which was already in existence before the United States became a nation, started literally as slaves, and were later given the franchise and other rights of citizenship, to the exercise of which they have only gradually and still incompletely come. The Commonwealth immigrant came to Britain as a full citizen, to a country which knows no discrimination between one citizen and another.
That's not true. That's not true at all. There were no signs outside places saying no dogs, no blacks, no Irish. It's not true that there's no discrimination. That's a lie.
And he entered instantly into the possession of the rights of every citizen, from the vote to free treatment under the National Health Service. Whatever drawbacks attended the immigrants, and they were drawbacks which did not and do not make admission into Britain by hook or by crook appear less than desirable, arose not from the law, or from public policy, or from administration, but from those personal circumstances and accidents which cause, and always will cause, the fortunes and experience of one man to be different from another's. But while to the immigrant, entry to this country was admission to privileges and opportunities eagerly sought, the impact upon the existing population was very different. For reasons...
No, we got a lot out of that immigrant population. I mean, we still do. It happens all the fucking time. It's the idea that it's been, like, they literally talk about it as if it's been a universal negative. And it hasn't. It's been overwhelmingly a positive.
Reasons which they could not comprehend, and in pursuance of a decision by default, on which they were never consulted, they found themselves made strangers in their own country. They found their wives unable to obtain hospital beds in childbirth.
When did this happen? Also, prick, you actively campaigned against the NHS formation, so you can fuck off about, the poor pregnant ladies couldn't get a bed. Yeah, back in the day they used to just have to give birth on a fucking straw floor. You can fuck off.
Children unable to obtain school places. Their homes and neighbourhoods changed beyond recognition.
Beyond
their
recognition.
Plans and prospects for the future
It talks about it like it's been bombed. There's some brown people living there. What are you talking about?
At work, they found that employers hesitated to apply to the immigrant worker the standards of discipline and competence required of the native-born worker.
Yeah, the white worker was being treated really badly by literally being excluded from employment in various factories and stuff, yeah. No, the white man had it so tough in 1968.
They began to hear, as time went by, more and more voices which told them that they were now...
That's why, when you hear people going about that now, know that they were saying the exact same dumb shit in 1968, and it's as fucking nonsense now as it was then. It's just, it's so obvious they're so desperate to be the victim. They're so fucking desperate for it.
The unwanted. On top of this, they now learn that a one-way privilege is to be established by Act of Parliament, a law which cannot and is not intended to operate to protect them. Or
actually, I mean, I don't know the rules that he's specifically talking about. I suspect he's wrong, but actually, yeah, anti-discrimination laws work for everyone. Literally everyone. Yeah.
Redress their grievances is to be enacted to give the stranger, the disgruntled, and the agent provocateur the power to pillory them for their private actions.
Oh, sorry, agent provocateur?
In the hundreds upon hundreds of letters I received when I last spoke on this subject 2 or 3 months ago, there was one striking feature which was largely new and which I find ominous. All members of Parliament are used...
Someone says, hey Kev, Telford's near you, isn't it? It is. It's very near me. You've seen the MP's bollocks article in the Telegraph? I have not. If you give me a link, I can take a look. But
to the typical anonymous correspondent. But what surprised and alarmed me was the high proportion of ordinary, decent...
Actually, I say very clear. It's not that close, but it's...
Yeah. Sensible people writing a rational and often well-educated letter who believed that they had to omit their address because it was dangerous to have committed themselves to paper to a member of Parliament agreeing with the views I had expressed, and that they would risk either penalties or reprisals if they were known to have done so.
Again, it's the same tactic as they use now you can't even say, you can't even scrawl racial abuse and shit on the side of someone's fucking house anymore. Like, it's the same bullshit. Like, I beef that one up slightly for the joke, but it's the same point. Like, they'll say, oh, you can't say your real feelings anymore because of the cancel culture or whatever, right? It's the same basic bullshit. There's always been a social repercussion for acting like a fucking prick. That's never changed, it never will change. It's always the case. This is you calling out what you see as other people acting like pricks, right? I.e. the government allowing black and brown people in. You're wrong, but whatever. That's you using your social pressure and indeed political power, because he was a member of the shadow cabinet at the time he gave this speech, to try and castigate people who you think were wrong. So how are you not engaging in the very same thing?
The sense of being a persecuted minority, which is growing among ordinary English people in the areas of the country which are affected, is something that those without direct experience can hardly imagine. I am going to allow just one of those hundreds of people to speak for me. She did give her name and address, which I have detached from the letter which I'm about to read. She was writing from Northumberland about something which is happening at this moment in my own constituency.
No, he says in his own constituency.
8 years ago, in a respectable street in Wolverhampton, a house was sold to a Negro. Now only one...
Fuck's sake. Like, it's disgusting and racist. But please bear in mind when he says that word, that was a common word at the time. Yeah, and he is technically quoting someone else, but he used it earlier as well. So, but that just gives you an impression of how racist you could be. You could say those kind of things, and he wasn't fired for saying those things. It was the stuff about immigration.
White, a woman old age pensioner, lives there. This is her story. She lost her husband and both her sons in the war. So she turned her 7-roomed house, her only asset, into a boarding house. She worked hard and did well, paid off her mortgage, and began to put something by for her old age. Then the immigrants moved in.
And they stole her house. They picked it up and left.
With growing fear, she saw one house after another taken over.
No, not taken over. What the fuck? They just invaded these houses? Or no, the people moved out and brown people moved in? Taken over. Fucking Christ.
Quiet streets became a place of noise and confusion.
Yeah, white people don't make noise. White people are silent, as we well know.
Regretfully, her white tenants moved out. The day after the last one left, she was awakened at 7 a.m. by 2 Negroes who wanted to use her phone to contact their employer. When she refused, as she would have refused any stranger at such an hour, she was abused and feared she would have been attacked but for the chain on her door. Immigrant families have tried to rent...
Yeah, white people don't act in antisocial ways, ever. It's never been known. It's never, ever been known. It's only black people that do that. According to Enoch Powell or something. What the fuck? Like, yeah, okay, so these 2 black... Let's just assume it happened. I have no idea, whatever. 2 black people acted like dickheads. And? Do you want a fucking medal? What? Here you go, you can have a sticker with a smiley face on it.
Rooms in her house, but she always refused. Her little store of money went, and after paying her rates, she had less than £2 per week. She went to apply for a rate reduction and was seen by a young girl who, on hearing she had a 7-roomed house, suggested she should let part of it. When she said the only people she could get were Negroes, the girl said, "Racial prejudice won't get you anywhere in this country."
Yeah. She refused to let the rooms to black people. So that's her. That's on her. I mean, it's the beautiful thing. The Karen is eternal, it would appear. The Karen exists throughout history. This particular example from Northumberland, of a Karen refusing to let rooms to black people and then moaning that she didn't have any money. Okay. Tough shit then. Like, if you want a 7-bedroom house and you can't afford it, you could let the rooms out to people. You've chosen not to do that and then want whether the rates were taxes paid based on... It's like a property tax, basically, right? I don't think it's called that anymore. I certainly don't. It's called council tax now. Council tax has surpassed the rates. Anyway. And so you have... she's trying to essentially get a tax cut, in essence, a rate reduction, based on the fact that she's driven herself into financial problems by refusing to let to black people. So she wanted the British taxpayer to bail her out for being a racist bitch. And I'm supposed to feel desperately sorry for this person, apparently. Get fucked.
So she went home. The telephone is her lifeline. Her family pay the bill and help her out as best they can. Immigrants have offered to buy her house as a price which the prospective landlord would be able to recover from his tenants in weeks, or at most in a few months. She is becoming afraid to go out. Windows are broken. She finds excreta pushed through her letterbox.
Yeah, because the black people who live around her know she's a racist old bitch. Now, I'm not saying that gives them any excuse to break windows or shove shit through a letterbox. But I can understand why people might not take kindly to that kind of individual. Again, you're not selling me on the empathy for this racist old fuck. E-man.
When she goes to the shops, she is followed by children, charming, wide-grinning pickaninnies.
White-grinning pickaninnies. There we go. White-grinning pickaninnies. Remember that phrase from a certain Mr... What was his name? Boris Johnson. Yeah, the current Prime Minister used that phrase in an article a few years back. Yippee.
One word they know. Racialist, they chant. When the new race relations bill is passed...
Oh no, they call me a racist for being racist. Oh no.
This woman is convinced she will go to prison. And is she so wrong?
Yes.
I begin to wonder.
Yes. We know... Well, I mean, obviously he was trying to predict or was lying, whatever. But we can say no, yeah, that didn't happen. Now, I don't know about that individual woman, but people weren't sent to prison for racial discrimination. You get, like, a fine, or... It depends on exactly... If it's, like, a physical altercation, you can get sent to prison, but whatever. Like, just for not letting rooms to people, that's not... You can't... No one's going to send you to prison for that. What are you talking about?
Wonder. The other dangerous delusion from which those who are willfully or otherwise blind to reality suffer is summed up in the word integration. To be integrated into a population means to become, for all practical purposes, indistinguishable from its other members.
Yeah. Race mixing is awesome. Race mix, everybody.
Now, at all times, where there are marked physical differences, especially of colour, integration is difficult, though over a period, not impossible. There are among
of course, the Jordan Peterson, the Bill C-16 shit, claiming you're going to get sent to prison because they want basic, like, decency in the law.
The Commonwealth...
And then obviously lying about that, and people don't go to prison. Again, there are a lot of parallels.
Immigrants who have come to live here in the last 15 years or so. Many thousands whose wish and purpose is to be integrated and whose every thought and endeavour is bent in that direction. But to imagine that such a thing enters the heads of a great and growing majority of immigrants and their descendants is a ludicrous misconception. And a dangerous one to boot. We're on the verge here of a change. Hitherto, it has been force of circumstance and of background which has rendered the very idea of integration inaccessible to the greater part of the immigrant population. that they never conceived or intended such a thing, and that their numbers and physical concentration meant the pressures towards integration which normally bear upon any small minority did not operate. Now we are seeing the growth of positive forces acting against integration.
Oh no, brown people want to live their lives how they want to. Again, you're not really making an amazing argument in favour here. P-man.
Of vested interests in the preservation and sharpening of racial and religious differences.
Oh, religious
with a view
as well.
to the exercise of actual domination. First over fellow immigrants.
Domination. Again, it's this obsession with domination. It's because he's a supremacist. He thinks that everyone else must be a supremacist. No, most black and brown people just want to live. They don't want to have the whip hand over you, Enoch. Although they technically do now because you're dead. So everything's above you because you're under the ground. Bitch!
And then over the rest of the population. The cloud no bigger than a man's hand that can so rapidly overcast the sky has been visible recently in Wolverhampton and has shown signs of spreading quickly. The words I am about to use, verbatim, as they appeared in the local press on 17th of February, are not mine, but those of a Labour Member of Parliament who is a minister in the present government. The Sikh community's campaign to maintain customs inappropriate in Britain is much to be regretted. Working in Britain, particularly in the public services, they should be prepared to accept the terms and conditions of their employment. To claim special communal rights, or should one say rights, leads to a dangerous fragmentation within society. This communalism is a canker, whether practiced by one colour or another. It is to be strongly condemned.
Yeah, there were weird racist people in the Labour Party as well. It's not news to me.
All credit to John Stonehouse for having had the insight to perceive that, and the courage to say it. For these dangerous and divisive elements, the
Enoch, you were the dangerous and divisive element. You fool.
Legislation proposed in the Race Relations Bill is the very pabulum they need to flourish. Here is the means of showing that the immigrant communities can organise to consolidate their members, to add...
Oh no, they look after themselves. That's terrible. What we want is a subjugated, broken mass of humanity.
Agitate and campaign against their fellow citizens, and to overawe and dominate the...
You're campaigning against fellow citizens. That's what you're doing in this speech.
...rest with the legal weapons which the ignorant and the ill-informed have provided. As I look ahead, I am filled with foreboding, like the Roman. I seem to see the river Tiber foaming with much blood.
There you go. That's why it's called the Rivers of Blood speech. But he doesn't actually use the phrase "rivers of blood."
That tragic and intractable phenomenon, which we watch with horror on the other side of the Atlantic, but which is interwoven with the history and existence of the states itself, is coming upon us here by our own volition and our own neglect.
So apparently the American N-word, let's just say, that he was referring to earlier, apparently that's he was referring there to the civil rights movement in America and saying that was bad. Okay. I think that might make you to use your phrase, racialist.
Indeed, it has all but come. In numerical terms, it will be of American proportions long before the end of the century. Only resolute and urgent action.
Because I don't remember anything like that happening before the end of the century. Although then again, you didn't actually live out the century, lol.
Will avert it even now. Whether there will be the public will to demand and obtain that action, I do not know. All I know is that to see and not to speak would be the great
betrayal. Yeah, which is the sentence that was cited in the in that terrible article. So yeah, that's the Rivers of Blood speech. I think we can all agree. Anyone living in Britain who isn't like a crazy racist would agree that the predictions there didn't really come to pass, and the same racist bullshit that he's spouting now that was being spouted by Enoch Powell then will also not come to pass with these idiots that are saying it now. It's the same basic tactic. Like I say, conservatism at its core is about trying to tap into people's base fears, their base emotions. It's very, very pathetic. But anyway, yeah, I thought that was worth taking a brief look at for historical and just general interest purposes. So let's go on. Hang on, we're gonna have some cats. There we go. There you go. I came in like a wrecking ball. That's a cat on I think of you. Actually, I could just get my cat. He's right there. Hang on, 1 second. 1 second, everybody. And then then I'll let you go. Then we can finish this. Come here, kids. You knob. You absolute knob. I was sleeping, Dad. I was sleeping. Earn your keep. Can we have toe beans? Can we have a look at toe beans? Hello, brother kids. He's beautiful, isn't he? No. Anyway, that's your lot. You got baby there, so. And now we're back to this cat again. Anyway, so thank you all for listening and watching. Go and subscribe to the Clips channel. It's linked below. All of my other links to my social medias, and if you really liked any of this nonsense, I've got Patreon and PayPal and Streamlabs. If you want to give me money, you can do so there. If you're on YouTube, please go and check out the Twitch channel and follow me there. And if you're on Twitch, go and subscribe to me on YouTube. It's all free. So, yeah, thank you all for listening and watching. We'll go back to the Eye of Saros. And, oh, hang on Twitch, I'll kick you over to someone. Where are we? On Twitch, we've got the Surfs, we've got Hannah Reloaded. Oh, we go with Hannah Reloaded, I think. Anyway. So I'll kick you over there on that, and say thank you all for listening or watching. No pass around.